Thank you, Secretary, for the introduction. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. All right. So I want to make sure you could see my screen now. Does that work?
Yes. Yes, it's working.
It does, yes, if we click your watch screen.
Okay, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Qunfang Wu. I'm from School of Information Studies at Syracuse University. So I'm glad to be here. So today I will talk about platform design and governance for social justice. So as Jen introduced, my research interests are human-computer interaction, HCI, social justice, computer-supported cooperative work, and social computing. So I try to challenge any inequalities embedded in socio-technical systems and advocate for design justice perspectives and practices. So as a content warning, this talk will discuss racist content, which may be upsetting or harmful to some audience. So as we're going to talk about platform design and governance, so the first question is, what are platforms? Here I cite Nick Cernac's definition. So platforms are digital infrastructures that enable two or more groups to interact. They position themselves as intermediacy that bring together different users, for example, customers, advertisers, service providers, producers, and suppliers, and even physical objects. So these platforms, more or less, also come with a series of tools that enable their users to build their own products, services, and marketplaces. As the right-hand image shows, platforms are in marketplace, payment, community, communication, repository, and search. So basically, they are everywhere. So however, online platforms enable or reinforce inequalities that users are experiencing offline as well. So today I'm going to use 3 cases to show how platform enables or reinforce the inequalities. In these cases, we also see resistance or emerging when users are interacting and using the platforms. These resistance actions inform the possible design and governance actions against the inequality on platforms. So the first case is deceptive design in live stream shopping. The second case is platform racism on Reddit. And the third case is inequality and resistance in algorithmic systems. So the first case comes from a case study of Alibaba's Taobao and ByteDance's TikTok. So if you have done any like shopping in any of the live stream channels, you would be familiar with this setting. This is a typical live streaming shopping session. The streamer in the picture, who is often a shop owner or a model or influencer or celebrity, spends a few minutes introducing their products, for example, food, clothes, bags, and then encourage their viewers to place an order for it right away. So here I list a few live stream shopping platforms. Probably you can recognize the ones on which you have spent money. So in China, e-commerce live stream as an online shopping form has received a huge success since 2019. People are addicted to this novel and interactive shopping form. Moreover, the pandemic of COVID-19 further contributed to online shopping because people cannot go to offline shopping mall. They choose to spend money online, like in those live stream e-commerce platforms. So however, this rapid development of live stream e-commerce in China does come with a cost. More and more malicious selling incidents has been reported by the media, such as selling fake products and tax evasion. So in this research, we focus on the negative side of live stream shopping, the malicious selling strategies used by streamers, and the platform designs that mediate those malicious selling strategies. Here, we defined live stream malicious selling as streamers leveraging unbalanced power and information to deceive, coerce, or manipulate viewers into buying behavior that is against the viewer's best interest during live stream sessions. So here, the best interest, I mean that probably they would choose not to buy something, but because of those malicious selling strategies, they buy something not at their best interest. So live stream shopping is a new type of online shopping experience. Streamers and viewers' experience are empowered or bounded by a platform UI design. So in the HCI community, one avenue of research that focuses on the negative effects of interface design on user is deceptive design or dark pattern. Brignon and colleagues initially defined it as a user interface that has been carefully crafted to trick user into doing things. Deceptive design has been reported in various scenarios, including e-shopping websites, mobile applications, gaming, robot, etc. Other studies may not particularly look at deceptive design. They also report bad design practices that could potentially harm users, such as malicious interface designs or techniques, ASO designers, privacy paradoxes, and impulsive buying. So we investigate the following questions. The first one, what malicious selling strategies are used by streamers or on live stream shopping platforms? The second one, how do platform designs mediate those malicious selling strategies? And the third question, how do viewers perceive either awareness or attitude and react to these malicious selling strategies? So here's what we did and found for the first question. So we selected two top live stream e-commerce platform, Alibaba's Taobao and ByteDance TikTok for analysis. They are the top two live stream shopping platform in China. So Taobao is originally an online shopping platform. Its live feature is an extension to its online shopping website. But TikTok is a short video sharing and a live stream platform. Thus, their add-on shopping feature is an extension to their live stream service. We recorded 40 live stream commerce sessions, 20 from Taobao and 20 from TikTok. Each recording lasts about 15 to 25 minutes. After several rounds of analysis, we identified 16 malicious selling strategies. So we found that those strategies fit into four groups or four types of characteristics of deceptive design. So Mather and colleagues initially defined the four characteristics. So we further grouped the 16 malicious selling strategies into four categories, which are restrictive, deceptive, covert, and asymmetric. The first one, restrictive, I give the definition for the four types. The first one, restrictive. Streamers ask viewers to take a forced action to obtain special rewards or prize. There are three subcategories under this characteristic, which is forced subscription, forced endorsement, and forced wholesale. The second one, deceptive, means streamers use the fake selling or product information to trick viewers to purchase products. So it's easy to understand. Those are like deceptive actions or information. So the third one is covert, which means certain products' presence is more appealing to influence viewers' decision-making, but viewers may fail to recognize the presence of these strategies. So here, covert is differentiated from restrictive or deceptive. There's no forced action, there's no deceptive information or actions, but still like a malicious for viewers or buyers to make their decisions. And the last one, asymmetric, means streamers create emotional or cognitive weights or burdens through verbal communication. So because of those extra emotional cognitive weights or burdens, it's also not easy for viewers to make purchase decisions. So compared to prior literature, we found new codes such as play acting and sophistry in the live stream shopping scenario. Those new coded were marked in bold, as you can see, which is not found in prior literature. So in the following, I explain two malicious selling strategies, play acting and egoistic norms. So under the covert category, there's one malicious selling strategy, which is a play acting. It is defined as a pretend behavior used by streamers to induce viewers to buy or to gain affection or sympathy from viewers. The play acting strategy leverages viewers' cognitive and emotional bias, but viewers may not realize this strategy. I can give you one example. So I remember in a recorded live stream session, when one product was sold out, the streamer begged his product manager to restock another 50 units of the same item. The product manager pretended that he tried so hard to find another 50 units for customers, but there's no one left. So it means that those like 50 units is the last, are the last items that they can get for the buyers or the customers. However, this live stream channel sold the same item every day. The scarcity was not as claimed. The play acting strategy was used for hunger marketing. Streamers also use play acting to fabricate a touching story or usage experience to emotionally stimulate viewers to place orders. So another one, egoistic norms in the asymmetric category refers to when a streamer creates norms that are beneficial to themselves and ask viewers to follow those norms even though those norms are not reasonable. So the norms gain more weight and become more legitimate in the streamer's channel. So if the viewers do not follow those norms, they will be belittled or abused by the streamer for anti-norm behaviors. For example, in a recorded channel, the streamer kept emphasizing that in his live stream channel, most viewers bought the product honey quickly without asking any questions. He said, he referred to the viewers, if you have any question about this product, you don't take me as your bro. So as you can see, this norm is not reasonable for viewers, but is beneficial to the streamer himself. So after identifying those malicious selling strategies, we are interested in how platform designs mediate those malicious selling strategy. So the result is we find that there's many designs that supported malicious selling strategies. As you can see, I mapped the designs with the 4 types of malicious selling strategies. There's a subscription, reminder tags, sharing, liking, gifting, chat channels, notification messages, product pages, countdown timers, back-ordered warnings, red pockets, coupons, or flash sales. So specifically, I can say like 9 strategies were supported by design features or functions within the 2 live stream platforms. The video recording demonstrates that restrictive selling strategy and the deceptive selling strategy are more likely to be facilitated by platform designs than covert and asymmetric strategies. The covert and asymmetric strategies relied more on sellers' sell skill or style so that they were less influenced by the platform designs. The results also reveal that the chat channel supported 3 types of malicious selling strategy. As this figure shows, chat channel supported restrictive strategies, deceptive strategies, and asymmetric strategies. So it was also the chat channel is also the only design used by viewers to counter malicious selling strategy. This is a easy to understand or not surprising because the chat channel was the only means for viewers to provide negative feedback. For example, some streamers enforced egoistic norms by asking viewers to send certain positive terms in the chat channel. Like, for example, good product, I want it, I already bought it. The viewers sent comments such as poor quality products to fight against the malicious selling via the chat channel. So to validate our finding for the recorded videos, we further ask the third question: how do viewers perceive and react to those malicious selling strategy? We interviewed 13 participants. Those participants had an online shopping experience either from Taobao or TikTok or both. Participants reported ways that they dealt with the malicious selling strategy. However, not all participants reflected those strategies. Like those strategies were effective for dealing with malicious selling strategies. This interview-based data provide us insights into the challenges of coping with malicious selling. These challenges were highly personalized stream procedures, malicious design that impaired viewers, and the visual limitation of live stream for special products. For example, the first one, highly personalized stream procedure. You may see the product page somewhere on e-shopping website where like a product parameters and functions are presented in detail. So actually this is required and asked by e-shopping websites so that customers could see the detailed parameters and functions and for the product that they want to buy. In contrast, there were no parameters provided by live stream selling. There are no standards to guide streamers about how to sell product in live stream because the procedures were highly personalized and selected by streamers themselves. Viewers encountered a high cost when selecting products. For example, within the same streamer's channel, those like non-standard procedures include incomplete presentation of products, versatile scenarios aiming to target multiple types of customers, and unpredictable stream orders. So all those like put high cost for viewers to make decision for selecting products and buy them. So due to interest of time, I would not spend time to explain the other two challenges. But overall, the interview study provided us the viewers or buyers' view of why live stream selling is so malicious. It is not just the streamers were doing that. It is the live stream platforms that support them to do that. To summarize this case, I would like to reflect the malicious selling strategy and the designs along with the platform's regulation. So I discussed this design and regulation from 3 points. The first one is a malicious selling strategy and deceptive design. So we find that participants were more aware of a restrictive and deceptive selling strategy than covert and asymmetric selling strategies. So one reason might be that the frequency of these strategies were different, but on a deeper level, the implementation of a covert and asymmetric selling strategy rely more on the sellers, not platform design feature or functions. So here it seems that the platform design features or functions serve as checkpoints to verify if selling strategies were malicious or not. So without those checkpoints, malicious selling strategy might be more concealed and difficult to identify. Thus, it is worth investigating if the absence of design feature and functions will make the awareness of a malicious selling strategy more difficult. And the second one, so it's about imbalanced power between those different stakeholders. Compared to other e-shopping channels, customers were in a much more inferior position to streamers while live stream shopping. Streamers had a high level of freedom to decide how they sold a product in channels. However, it is hard for viewers to report trolling and being talkative, like to report trolling or other like issues in live stream channels. Given the unbalanced power between viewers and streamers, the platforms need to provide more ways for customers to combat malicious selling, not just the chat channel. For example, collective reporting or other like features. And the third one is about regulation and cultural like context of live stream shopping in China. So the state government tries to seek a balance between economic development and the platform regulation. So currently, the regulation for live stream e-commerce in China are government policies rather than laws. This regulation asks that live stream platforms take the main responsibility to monitor and regulate streamers' illegal or inappropriate behaviors. But as we all know, like there's not much motivation for live stream platforms to do that, right? So, but there's no specific policies or laws to govern those like more implicit deceptive design or on live stream platforms. So more efforts need to be done in this field. Okay, so the second case is the platform racism. So we examined the phenomena of platform racism in conversations about crime in the US. To provide you some background information about why I studied this in conversations about crime. So my initial motivation is to look at how people navigate the fear of crime on Reddit. The themes of racial framing and countering framing were emerging during the inductive coding process. So those conversations about crime demonstrate how people perpetuated and countering racial frames in online platforms. To provide some context, I would like to start with an example of a conversation about crime. So this is a post from subreddit Baltimore. Baltimore is a city of the US. So the background is a Black teenager, Donta Harris, was charged with felony murder, burglary, and auto theft for killing a white police officer when conducting burglary. Harris was waiting outside a home when the other three Black teenagers were conducting burglary in a house. According to evidence caught on camera, the police officer at that night, the police officer asked Harris to get out of a stolen Jeep. Harris opened the door, hesitated, and then closed the door and drove over the police officer. So when discussing this crime incident on Reddit, one user kept using language animals to describe Harris and the other three teenagers. So Harris' race was not explicitly mentioned, but the racialized language contributed to, continue to link the teenager and Black people with crime. So digital platforms such as Reddit afford users to be exposed or actively engage in conversation about crime, which contributes an increasing awareness of crime. However, those conversations about crime occurring in online spaces can be problematic. Those conversations reinforce the racialized narratives that marginalize the people of color and induce fear and further impact people's ability to engage in everyday routines. These conversations exhibited platform racism. So here, platform racism is defined as how socio-technical systems like Reddit enable the construction and the propagation of racist ideologies. So our first question is, how are people engaged in framing and combating racist ideology in conversations about crime on Reddit? I would like to start with some definitions. So my work is built upon the conceptual premise of new racism and framing. So we acknowledge that there are many theories drawing on critical race perspectives. In this work, we applied Bonilla-Silva's new racism as a theoretical analysis tool. Bonilla-Silva defines new racism as the post-civil rights era set of arrangement, mechanisms, and practices responsible for the reproduction of white privilege at all levels. Old racism refers to the racial oppression devised by white people to subordinate people of color since the colonial era. However, in contemporary America, Jim Crow racism is no longer the primary racism. Rather, the concept of post-racism or color blindness has been used to conceptualize the current version of the white racial frame. Thus, new racism is more subtle, institutional, and even non-racial. So Benil-Serra articulate 4 central racial frames of new racism to illustrate how white people narratives framed around the color blindness. There are abstract liberalism, naturalization, cultural racism, and minimization of racism. So later on in the findings, I will revisit those colorblind racial frames again. So frames are mental structure that shaped the way people perceive the world. So online spaces can also support collective actions that push back against the platform racism. So here we focus on how collectives come together in acts of resistance, also known as social movements, as a means for developing counter-narratives to combat the dominant racism ideologies. Okay, so we choose Reddit as the research site because Reddit allowed the users we call Redditors to create sub-communities on various topics, among which crime is a popular topic. Moreover, Reddit is a unique platform to explore racial discourses because it has a unique set of features that both shape and are shaped by user interaction, such as pseudonymity, the voting system, upvote or downvote, and moderation. So we choose the subreddit Baltimore, the city in the US, because the dominant narrative in that subreddit or around Baltimore are unsafe and indeed synonymous with crime. We refer to the FBI's definition of violent and property crime and generate a list of keywords to collect data about crime. We conducted both inductive analysis and deductive analysis on the collected conversations about crime. So this is a summary of the findings. So basically, by engaging in these practices, Redditors on the subreddit Baltimore were collectively mitigating people's fear of crime and destigmatizing Baltimore's image. However, on a deeper level, we found that many of these conversations were not actually related to developing an awareness of crime. Instead, people were using both old racial frames to perpetuate racially coded language rife with anti-Black stereotypes. They were also applied more covert new racial frames to cover their racism and discrimination against the Black people. Other Redditors focus on fought against platform racism by rehumanizing, drawing attention to systemic racism, and situating crime in root societal causes. We see this various colorblind racial frames being perpetuated on Reddit. In the interest of time, I will explain minimization of racism as an example. So minimization of racism rationalize how discrimination is no longer a central factor impacting the life conditions of minorities. Through this argument, discussion of race in relation to crime could be considered in playing the race card. Redditors use reverse racism to defend for themselves. Reverse racism or reverse discrimination is the inherently racist concept that against affirmative action. Affirmative action in the US means that the government action that provides social and economic advantages to Black people, which is thought as harming the interest of white people. For example, in a post that the original poster record a mugging experience, the comment used the reverse racism. As the quote said, "Why is it that Black people claim racism where there is none? It is so common. Victim complexes are so unattractive. I believe you are the snowflake, crying racism where there clearly is none. I think you need a reboot. It is called reverse racism or discrimination. So another instance is that some Redditors deny the minority status of Black people, as this quote said. Black or African American people are the majority racial group, 62.8% of the population of Baltimore. To challenge this dominant ideology of the subreddit, one Redditor reminded people that racism is not directly associated with racial compensation. This particular individual Redditor drew upon the concept of institutional racism as defined on Wikipedia to describe how people's attitudes and beliefs were being shaped. So besides racial frames and countering frames that we also conducted a semi-structured interview study to understand the moderators' experience of moderating problematic content, including racist content on Reddit. The question is, how do volunteer moderators moderate racism, and how does the governance of platforms influence moderation practices? So we recruited people who served as a current or previous moderator from a city or local subreddit within the US on Reddit. We recruited 13 moderators in total. They were from 11 city or local subreddits. We conducted an inductive coding analysis derived from grounded theory method. Then we applied an axial coding and generated the fighting coding schema with 3 primary themes. So the 3 themes are sorry about that. So the result revealed that moderators heavily rely on auto mode to detect and regulate racist content and racist accounts. But covert racism mediated by and through colorblind ideologies were typically not addressed in these reported interviews. Both human and machine moderation practice are deeply shaped by colorblind perspectives. The participants reported challenges of moderating racist content. There are fear of power corruption, arbitrary moderator team structure, and involving covert racism, but a sluggish top-down anti-racist deployment. So here I choose the second challenge, the arbitrary team structure of moderators, to show how colorblind racial ideology shape voluntary moderation practices. So based on participants' reflections, the structure of a moderator team was an arbitrary decision-making process. It was determined mainly by the supreme moderators. So if you go to the subreddit, one subreddit on Reddit, there's a list of moderators. The ranking or the order of those moderators could show if the moderator is a supreme one or not. Usually, like the moderators on the top of the list is a supreme moderator who is called like the king moderator of that subreddit. So arbitrary decision making is easy to fall into colorblind, no matter whether the team structure is hierarchical or flat. So in a hierarchical moderator team, if the senior moderator are blind to racism, it is difficult for junior moderators to challenge the regulation, such as rules or norms framed around the colorblind. So as this quote displayed, in a hierarchical team, the top moderators conducted a hands-off moderation experiment and excluded other moderators who held different opinions. So I'm going to read this quote. So the guy, he had views on censorship where he basically felt like it should be completely hands-off. And I didn't agree with that because I didn't want to see this racism and stuff, and neither do most people. He was very hands-off, like he would disappear for weeks sometimes, and then he would be popping with strange rules. So I looked at the page and I saw I had been removed as well. And then I looked at the list and I saw we were all removed. I think he kind of looked at it as an experiment and just wanted to see what would happen. So as you can see, like as this quote described, the moderation practices or the decision-making process is really like a random. Like the supreme moderators take that as a very arbitrary like experiment. Like he removed all the moderators and see what will happen. Like no matter there's like a racism content come out in those subreddits. So in a flat moderator team compared to hierarchical moderator team, moderation can be colorblind too. Moderators may hold nuanced attitudes to racism, even if they claim they are anti-racist. To avoid personal differences, moderators are more likely to compromise the inaction of subtle and covert racist content, as the participant 13 reflected. Personally, like for me, I'm a big fan of a compromise. So I'm likely to, suggest the other options and see if we can find something that everybody happy with and just keep discussing until we can arrive at a compromise. So as a result, because they seek a compromise in their decision making, as a result, the covert or subtle racist content were left there without any moderation practices. So in this work, we see people in digital spaces are weaponizing identity and engaging in a kind of digital gentrification. We developed the two terms, weaponized identity and digital gentrification, to explain ways where people continue to perpetuate white hegemonic power structures in society through online interactions. So by weaponized identity, we argue that identity can also be weaponized when people use body and body image as a weapon against others. Redditors positioned Black bodies and identities as animals, monsters, subhuman and inhuman, white people as civil and moral. They were perpetuating long-standing structure of white power and privilege in the online context, in the online platforms. Digital gentrification is defined as the ways individuals engage narrative construction in neoliberal process of revitalization and regeneration of urban area in digital spaces. So it is very important to understand the rules of moderator in moderating problematic content, as they are the critical drivers for bottom-up governance innovations, such as how to distribute power between moderators and the platform. So how to create or regulate the moderator team's structure, and how to create or innovate governance tools, auto-governance tools that support moderation works and against racist content. This work discussed articulating rules and conceptualizing algorithmic detection to dismantle platform racism, especially colorblind racism. So I'm going to present the third case, which is the algorithmic inequalities and resistance. This is an ongoing study that I'm doing. So here I mainly or briefly talk about the research background, motivation, and goals. So algorithmic systems are ubiquitous in people's lives. So to name a few algorithmic systems, for example, recommendation systems, social media feeds, and data-driven decision support systems. During the process, algorithmic system force the user to make decisions or discriminate against certain populations. So you may notice that media have reported many cases of algorithmic inequalities. For example, this is the book wrote by Sophia Noble, which is algorithmic operation of algorithms, and the inequality in YouTube algorithmic recommendations. The gig worker, like the inequality created by gig worker platforms. So to counter this algorithmic inequalities, more and more individual and collective resistance actions are emerging in algorithmic systems. So studying those resistance action will profoundly benefit underrepresented communities across the world. So at the individual level, individuals navigate the algorithmic power, regain control of their experiences as users, and develop strategies to resist the inequalities. So when individual actions become massive and structured, it comes into collective resistance. I call it institutional resistance. So for example, grassroots activists and community members are taking bottom-up actions to resist the algorithm power. More and more socio-technical systems are designed from community-led innovations against the gig platforms to crowdsource the blacklist against the problematic algorithm content moderation for online harassment on Twitter. So I dubbed those systems as solidarity systems, which is digital systems that are created by grassroots activists or community members and resist the algorithmic operation and discrimination in a collective manner. These systems provide technical and emotional support for community members, but at the same time are facing many challenges, such as high maintenance cost and accusations of censoring. They need more design and policy consideration when expanding broadly. So I will answer the following questions. The first one is, what kinds of digital solidarity systems exist and what are their goals? The second one is, how do digital solidarity systems engage with users and user data? And the third one, what are the challenges faced by digital solidarity systems and how do creators of those systems overcome them? So I look forward to addressing those questions and welcome any forms of collaboration. Thank you so much. My work was supported by National Science Foundation in the US and the Graduate School Fellowship at Syracuse University. So please contact me if you're interested in the work and or have any questions. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I guess we have a bit of time for questions in case from the audience.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you for this thoughts. So we see live streaming is not it's a hot a popular topic, and actually it's become popular first in a gaming, live stream gaming, right? So many studies already done that, how to moderate the gaming channels, live stream gaming channels, and so, but the live stream shopping is quite a new scenario. So we see, so right now it changed a lot. The live stream shopping platforms have changed a lot in China. So because the government published many policies to regulate that, but it's not enough. As I mentioned, in the talk, policy is not enough. It needs to be laws. And also compared to the US. So I didn't do research for other countries. I just compare China and the US. So in the US, there's laws or policies which explicitly mention the dark pattern or deceptive designs. So we use that term because I think that is a critical term or practice to regulate this a platform, because for deceptive design or dark patterns, those are very implicit malicious functions or features, but we cannot overlook that they do harm users or viewers. So from my viewpoint, study the deceptive design or dark patterns is a good way to see the implicit harmful designs or practices in live stream I should say in live stream platforms, not only shopping. Yeah. So right now I see at least in China, so the viewers has very little, has very few interface design functions to fight against the malicious shopping. So all the features designs on the platform is beneficial to streamers or sellers. So I think in the future, we need to call for action for those anti deceptive designs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not surprising because it seems like doing things beneficial for the streamer means higher engagement on the platform, and that's why the platform have this interest. I had a question about the study on racism on Reddit that you did, and I wondered, did you analyze the engagement patterns of users with content comments that are later being moderated? Do we see a difference in engagements, like more replies, more likes, more polarizations on the likes and dislikes?
That's a good question. So yeah, so because in the presentation, I'm more focused on the framing, the content framing. So actually, so actually, in the quotes, I also gave the upvotes or downvotes. As you see, likes is similar to likes or dislikes. But on Reddit, it called upvote or downvote, and it will give a final score, which is basically the upvotes minus downvotes, the final score. Yeah, so you could see what is the dominant voices for that particular post or comments. So I can tell you, in the subreddit Baltimore, the pattern is we don't do the quantitative statistical test for that, but we along with the data analysis, we see that pattern is for racist content, there's always always, not always, but most of the time they receive upvotes, and for anti-racist content or comments, they usually receive downvotes. So if you remember, people talk about the population composition of the city of Baltimore, 62.8% are Black people, right? But on that platform, on the subreddit Baltimore, you could see the dominant voices still lean to white. Otherwise, there won't be upvotes for racist content or downvotes for anti-racist content. That is because the background for Reddit is it is initially created by some computer science guys, and right now it's the user, the group of users involved from time to time. But at the very beginning, most of the people are highly educated white men, especially who know computer science. So the dominant groups in that platform. So you could guess if I write something for racist content, who will upload me, who will download me. But like the demographic like information of that platform like changed over time. So we saw like more Black users are using that platform right now. But like in the US, like it's still like white people receive like a good education, highly educated like than Black people. So so you could see like that pattern. Yeah. You mean? Mm. Right. But yes. So in our interview study, like some moderators also mentioned that. So I don't like dive into that question, for this like a topic, but like in the interview study, like a moderator said, usually like those like robot accounts are tied with some political like discussions, especially during the pandemic in some like local city subreddit. Some robot accounts join the discussion and try to direct the conversation to a certain like direction. But our moderators, the participant, they just like block that users. But we don't do like we don't do analysis for those kind of accounts. Yeah. I don't know like if I answer a question because I'm not an expert for that. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so I can tell you that for political like discussions, it's usually like they suspect those robot accounts are from Russia. Try to direct the topic to a weird like a discussion, try to divide people of the US from the inside. So that is like the suspicious of or guess from the moderators. Yeah.
Yeah. So around moderation, did you also look into how well does moderation scale with the increased size of the user base and still very small teams of moderators? Are there sometimes too much content to be moderated and that moderator gets overwhelmed?
Definitely. So actually, it's hard for moderators to manually monitor like everything on the subreddit. So they heavily rely on auto moderation tools, like call auto mode. They call auto mode on Reddit. So that actually leads to the issues or problems. So our moderator participants reported that those auto mode tools are pretty good. Pretty good for moderating racist content. But as you know, like as we know, or like we find that actually those tools are just moderate or delete or remove extremely racist content in their subreddit. So like for something like undecided, like implicit, subtle, so they're still there. Yeah. So, but our moderators, but our moderator participant feel it's good those tools. So I can tell you like we have 13 moderators in total, participant in total. So actually, most of them are white. This is because the demographics of Reddit users. So there's might like some participants report themselves as a white or Caucasian, and they might be like Hispanic, but there's no Black moderators. So that is the limitation of that study. So it is not surprising that those moderators think those auto mod tools are good to monitor, racist content. Yeah. This is a good question. Yeah.
Do you know how the best auto mod tools work? Are they analyzing the language with recent language models, or is it something else?
Yeah, I think so. Like I don't know like how that exactly work, but it's around or developed by the official administration team. Let me think. Yeah, it's a official tool, and definitely like use some language modeling methods to do that. So as far as I know, so like people approach, like researchers approach that question, like the language modeling, like for hate speech. There's not many tools or language models for racist content. So racist or racism is just one type of hate speech. So people developing language models to detect hate speech in general. And so, like the accuracy, like for racist content or racism is not very accurate or high. And also, the context is it really matters. Like they use like a very covert, like a dog whistling, like the words to represent the racist content, like just like a racist users know what they mean. So like even you know what they really mean, but you cannot delete or remove their content or the accounts because they can explain, oh, I'm not mean that. So it's very hard to just use a language model to detect a racist content. Yeah.
Yeah. A funny story I heard about a few years back about this auto-moderation of racist content was that some chess content, so that's what I follow on Reddit, chess, was moderated because in chess you always talk about white and black and they are fighting, and this was detected as racism all the time.
Oh, I see. So yeah, that's interesting to look at. So like, do you mean like the chess that is a subreddit? Or
yeah, there are a bunch of subreddits about chess, the game, and at the beginning of this auto moderation tools, chess content got censored because of that.
I see.
Yeah.
There you have.
I think it was.
I see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank
I
you.
was
Thank you
wondering,
for asking.
you focused on racism for this second study, but like are there, and you mentioned that you could consider other types of discriminations or oppressions, and for instance, I don't know, sexisms or whatever. Like, did you perform other studies, and are there specificities about racism?
Yeah, that is because the subreddit that I choose. So I start with the subreddit of Baltimore. So there's another like a city, Chicago in the US, like the subreddit Chicago. So we see like the same patterns. So if you go to that subreddit, the two subreddit, you will see like there's not many other like problematic content presented in those conversations about crime. Most of them are about racism or racist. So I received one review, like we submit a paper and receive like a review, like try to question if we cherry pick like the how to say the themes, racist or racism in our data. So I should say no, we didn't do that. That is because my like initial motivation research goal is to understand how people engage in conversations about crime and try to like increase their awareness of crime. because like if you have more awareness, you probably can take a precautious actions to prevent crime and to prevent to be like a victimization. But as a result, those like racism content or racist behaviors come up in the data analysis of those conversations about crime. But I believe like outside like crime conversations about crime, there's some other like a problematic content, because we interview the moderators. They mention, for example, sexism. They mention harassment. They mention how to say like some problematic content about like COVID-19 and the conspiracy between Russia and the US. Yeah, but I didn't like look into those like content yet.
Thank you. I was also wondering, like I don't know, especially on Reddit, but I guess this works also there. Like you have some communities where, in order to avoid to be moderated, they create some new language such that they can escape from like being detected in some sense. And how do you deal with such situations? Because in some sense, as soon as you're being recognized with some terminology, then you can change it. And I know many people are using it to avoid being censored.
Yes. That's a great question, because I can tell you like actually people are not afraid of using very explicit racist language if like on some like a website. There's a website called Qunfang. There's extremely racist language there. But on Reddit, people might think they need to create some like new terminologies. We call like a dog whistling, like to try to avoid moderation or deletion or removal. So to address that, I think people can always create new terminologies, and the language modeling can't like work all the time. So I think it's really like to address that question is really call for the governance level or regulation level of, or the ideology level of a platform like a governance. So like think from the high level, like the administrative team of that Reddit, do they really care about removing racist accounts or content? Or they just do that because of public relation issues. So is that like every time when people complain about racist content and report it in mass media, and then Reddit is forced to do that, or they really want to address that question? So right now we don't see much or many actions taken to address that, because from the administration team to moderator team, we don't see Black or people of minorities are taking the key role in regulation or governance of that team. I think like to address that, really need to bring those like people of color or minorities like a perspective in the regulation or governance of those platforms, I think. Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm. 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 Yeah. I'm not sure if my solution could address that, but I believe that to address that, the global rules need to define the racism, need to give the very explicit definition for what do they think as a racist content or accounts. Or right now, for example, on Reddit, they don't have that kind of global rules. There's just I think a tool. I don't know if they update their community policies yet. So when the time when I look at that, they just give two examples for. They don't say they don't call that a racism. I forgot the specific term for that, but that is the only thing or content or policy I see people could borrow or refer to moderate racism in their subreddit. And actually, I looked at up to 20 or 30 local city subreddit. Every subreddit have that rule for racism is forbidden in our subreddit. But that's it. So they have that sentence or that rule. So, but when I ask a question, so how do you how do you define or what kind of content do you think is a racist or racism? The moderators cannot answer my question. So what I mean is if the top level, the global rules doesn't define for that, how could local moderators can understand and define their own rules to moderate that. So my answer as I answer Jane's question, it should be from top down to enforce the definition and also policy to fight against the racism in online platforms. Yeah. Right. It's hard. Take time. Yeah.
Maybe one more question about the Reddit moderators. Because there is another distinction between Twitter and Reddit. Typically, so moderators on Twitter are paid employees, employed by Twitter.
Yeah.
Whereas moderators on Reddit are volunteers, right?
Yes.
What do you know? What are their motivations to be involved in the moderation on Reddit? Do they see themselves as activists, maybe to promote some of their ideas, or maybe they're just interested in being involved in the community? Do you know about this?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. Yeah. So as you say, Twitter employed pay some workers to do moderation, but Reddit is totally a voluntary. So for subreddit, it's actually initially created by a user, and automatically that user will be the first moderator of that subreddit. And also I think the conditions to create a subreddit also need that user need to seek other users to be moderator as well, so that they could create a subreddit and practice the moderation actions to control or to make sure that subreddit works well, right? So you could see the subreddit is actually a baby of that top moderator. I think that is part of the motivation, right? And also for some subreddit, and actually they could change the top moderator. So if the previous moderator couldn't work that anymore, so they could choose another moderator as the supreme one and take charge of the moderation work in that subreddit. I think it's very self-motivated because they are really interested in the topic in the subreddit. And for example, the city or local subreddit, they usually like the locally resident. So they try to maintain or protect their subreddit. It's like a online discussion board for their city, for their local areas. They try to moderate that. But the moderators, the volunteer moderators also reported it's a lot of work. Some of them complain about that. It's hard to maintain that because they also have other works to do. So actually, some participants suggested that Reddit need to think about the compensations for those volunteer moderators, either like the compensations like in payment, or they could like create some like credits, for those moderators, so that they feel, their moderation, their volunteer moderation work is paid attention by the administration team, or the administration office. Yeah. So like, but for those volunteer moderators, the good thing is they like their subreddit, and they know very well about their subreddit. So they know the context. For example, if people talk about some like implicit racist content, they know exactly this is a racist content or racism, so they could deal with that. So think about like a Twitter the employed moderators. Actually, maybe they are not physically located in the US. Like if they moderate like a US content, they could like locate it everywhere across the world, but they don't know the context. So it's hard for those like moderators on Twitter to detect or moderate racist content given like some specific context. Yeah.
We also have a question from the chat from Ulysse asking, how could government or any other high organization define racism? I don't know if like about the definition of racism. Yeah.
So I cite Benil Silva's definition for new racism. Like I try to compare like old racism or new racism. So actually, I don't see like some like authorities defined that. It's like more like scholars or researchers try to define that. So my understanding, or Benil Silva's understanding, old racism is more about like the language level or the behavioral level, or like individuals like behavioral language to dehumanize the people of color. For example, call them like animals, inhuman, immoral, like it's prejudice and discrimination of individual behavior. And recently, like in the US, people talk about like a structural or institutional racism, which not just like an individual level of discrimination or prejudice. It's about like the white privilege, like involved in all levels of society. For example, school, healthcare, government. So I can give you one example, like how to like think about like a structural racism or institutional racism. So, for example, like in the higher education institutions, right? So, like the college students need to find jobs, right, after they graduate. So there's many affirmative actions to try to recruit more people of color to the college or university, so that those people of color, students of color could have like a higher opportunity to receive education and find better jobs, right? So those policies lean to people of color. So actually, when they are looking for jobs, it really depends on the social networks. If their friends or their families know somebody, they could introduce. They could be introduced to those like networks. So it's a kind of a privilege from generation to generation. It's accumulated privilege. So even you recruit more students of color to college, they don't have the accumulated generational accumulated privilege to find jobs. So it's still like you can't like find good jobs. So even like some white people cry for affirmative action, say, so why you don't give like equal opportunity for us to to apply for university or college? But there's still like inequality in the society for people of color. Not just the education opportunities. It's everywhere. So even currently, you can see like people say specific racist words or language or behaviors to people of color. There's still like inequality in every level of the society. Yeah.
So Louis, you mentioned a follow-up question. I don't know if you want to ask it or I can.
Yeah, I can say. So I fully agree with you. So your answer to the question, the question was initially how could government define racism? And I fully agree that the people who study the question, the scholar and academics who spend hours and even years thinking about it to fully understand it and explain it, are the right person to provide the definition. But then the question still remains that government needs to, they are the one who have the executive power and need to act to change the world. Scholars can only produce knowledge and publish it, and it's out there. And based on this knowledge, the world slightly changed, but the world would change more efficiently if governments were taking actions based on this knowledge. So my question is, how do you see do you have ideas around the process of how government should take the knowledge of the scientific community and enact it into regulations? And before you answer, final comment on this question. I think it's very related to other topics like how COVID regulations happened, or how we are making changes related for climate change, where the knowledge is there in the scientific community, but not as much is happening.
Yeah. So, that's some like very important question to think about. And from my opinion, I think, like because I mentioned like new racism or old racism, like why like Benil Silva defined that, because in the U.S. people think, or like white people think, there's no racism currently in the U.S. We respect Black people and we don't say those bad words to them, and try to define the new racism is the behind the motivation is to try to bring people's awareness of the existing of racism. So like how should like a government or other like high organizations to like use like to design useful regulation or policies? The first step is to bring awareness of that, right? So if like people don't aware of the existing racism, how people could take action for that, right? So that's why like many studies or scholarship try to study those implicit or covert racism embedded in online and offline context, and try to bring people's awareness of that. So I think like this is the first step. After people like admit those things like still like exist, so the step will be like take some like policy or regulation actions to address that. Yeah, but I think the awareness is really important. It's really important. Like like even me, like I also like identify myself as a people of color, right? So when I first joined the US, so I have the fear of crime. So like what it come from? It's come from the mass media, because the mass media keep telling me that Black people commit crime and it's not safe to work outside in the night. And when I see like Black people, one Black person in the street, I try to try avoid the eye contact with her or him. So that is a stereotypical reporting. And also I think why the university or college need to admit more Black people. So you need to give like equal opportunity to everyone, right? That is my knowing like when I first joined the US, but now I change my idea. But I try to like tell my friends about those like awareness. So it's about like education awareness. I think that is the first and the important thing to do first. Yeah.
Maybe just a remark about this. It's unfortunately bad news. Is that at least in the case of France, at least is very bad. Like especially when it comes to COVID and social justice. Because on one hand, in the case of COVID, like there's one scientist who did DG.O, who propagated a lot of disinformation, and he was massively popular on both classical medias and on social medias, and so recommendation algorithms caused a lot of harms. And as well, in terms of social justice, like if today we ask people on the streets to think of a philosopher or a historian in France, then what's most likely is that they will name people, thinking maybe of Eric Zemmour or of mediatic philosophers who are denying all of these issues. So there's a huge challenge here, is that even like the few academics, and I'm putting quote marks on the academics because these are not good academics, but they are still like regarded as academics by journalists, by mid journalists, and by the general public. Today they are much more often invited in the medias, and they are much more widely recommended by recommendation algorithms on social medias. So it's a tough fight.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know, like I can mention like my own experience, because when I analyze the data, so I worked with a undergrad student who identified herself as a Black people. She grew up in Baltimore, the city of Baltimore. So I can give you so her reaction was surprised me because like after like we work like usually we work for 2 or 3 hours together to analyze the data. So each week, I should say. And after that data analysis, her reaction is he told me that those data make her feel very, very uncomfortable and feel very sad. So if you're not like live in that environment or really like experience what the Black people experienced in the US, you really don't understand the feelings of look at those racist content. So that really like shocked me. So I think because everyone have their like a privilege. Even I'm also like a people of color, but I also have a privilege like as a highly educated person, as a non-Black researcher. So I think understanding and awareness is really important. Yeah, try to think in their way. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's a good opportunity to diverge to another topic, because I guess what we're trying to do on Tournesol is to give more visibility to these important topics by like identifying top quality content. So you wanted to have also to be part of your research. So can you present more what kind of collaboration you would have in mind, and also like what other solidarity systems you have been thinking of?
Yes, really. I recently very interested in algorithmic system, but it's a but there's a broad a range of system which can be fall into the definition of algorithm systems, right? So yeah, we talk about that. So for example, the YouTube recommendation algorithms, the gig platforms, because it's also rely on algorithm to decide, the gig workers work and how they can provide a service for customers. And also for Twitter block list, because Twitter automatic moderation algorithms, which is monitor the harassment or other problematic content, right? And also some social media phase. I don't know if you use TikTok much or not. So it's really I'm addicted to that kind of a phase. I also use other similar phase services, mobile applications. So I'm really interested in those individual or collective actions to resist or fight against the inequality created by algorithms. So, but my focus is also still on take a critical perspective. For example, the gender and also the race or ethnicity. Try to see the intersection and also the intersection of gender and racial ethnicity, because those people are kind of underrepresented, historically represented groups, and we need to to study their experience and try to help them. For example, actually, the study that I'm doing is, because of COVID, many small business have been shut down in China. For example, the restaurants. Restaurants are the most frequent, the most Euro small business, right? So those if the government say, oh, that is a high risk area, so that those restaurants in that area need to be closed. But the people rely on those small business to have a life, to have a living, to pay for their living expenses. So I see during the year 2022, many restaurants is permanently closed, shut down, because they don't have the money to maintain that. So I really try to, and those restaurants rely on algorithmic recommendation system to advertise their business. For example, in the US, people use Yelp. In China, we use 大众点评 or some other platforms to find those restaurants. So that those restaurant owners also rely on those recommendation applications. So I have a friend. He opened 3 restaurants, but he tells me that it's very difficult for him to try to manage different algorithmic recommendation systems. For example, he figured out how to do advertising on TikTok, but there's other platforms, which is slightly different from TikTok. TikTok is using video to do advertising, right? But on the other ones, they rely on pictures, and another one rely on, I don't know, maybe users' comments. I don't know. So it's really difficult for those small business owners to advertise their business. And if you want to advertise, do a good advertising, you need to spend money. I could say he told me his one of his friends spent 30,000 renminbi to do the advertising, but it's hard for some small business owners to spend that much money. right, on those like platforms. So try to I don't know, like build something or create some like networks for those restaurant owners, try to help them to survive during this very suffering, time, COVID. Yeah. So they need resources from like experience sharing from other like peer, restaurant owners. And also, there's another special resources, which is there's some like customers. They are experienced, how to say, like guests or customer of those restaurants. They know what kind of dishes or menus could attract customers, but the restaurant owners may not know. So they are eager to receive feedbacks or suggestion from those experienced customers. So I could see like there is some possibility to build something connection between the two different like users, so that some like a voluntary guest or customer could provide help, suggestion or feedbacks for those like restaurant owners. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, about like COVID or yeah. But it's also about like the algorithm system that I'm going to like study. Yeah.
And can you tell us more about what you would expect from us in terms of collaboration?
Yeah, I think like the YouTube like recommendation algorithms is definitely a important issue to study, because like there's many reporting about like the problematic algorithms of YouTube. Yeah. So because I'm a HCI researcher, I definitely interested in the user perspective, like designs, either like designs or or like a policy level from the like a user perspective, how those are like the Tournesol system could help users to identify good videos, either like to fight against the misinformation or racism or other like or sexism. Yeah, those are like a critical issues in on YouTube. Yeah.
So maybe just to say more about Tournesol, like we have two kinds of users essentially on the platforms. Those who are enjoying the recommendations, so typically users of the Tournesol extensions, or you have an add-on for Chrome and Firefox. And then you have also the contributors, those who are like engaging more and wants to identify top-quality content. Like, is there like which category would rather focus on?
I should say like focus on. I'm interested in both, like the creator side and also the user side. So as I defined it in the talk, I call I think Tournesol is also one of the digital solidarity system. So I really want to summarize like the success knowledge of developing solidarity systems, both from the creator level and the perspective and the user perspective. Like try to summarize some knowledge so that not every community could develop that. So what is the key factor to develop this kind of system like successfully? Like what is the challenging part, right? And if this community don't have enough resource, like low resources, the community, what they can do, maybe they don't even they don't have to create a software, a digital software. They could probably like build some like easy tools to that. So try to answer that questions. But the underneath or the underneath like idea is if the community are facing with like algorithm inequality from like a big tech companies or some like maybe government or maybe, so how they could resist, how they could fight against. So that is my my motivation or like the goal to do that research. So definitely like interviews or like a storytelling. It's kind of like an interview study. Like you could like talk freely, like how you work for this system and what is the challenging for that. We will see like, and also I want to like study other systems, but it should be like deployed already so that we have the empirical experience. So Tournesol is a deployed one. Yeah, definitely. So that we have concrete experience sharing, like for so that we can help other like communities.
Yeah. This will be with pleasure on my side, at least.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe a slight difference is that our contributors, I expect them to not be the users of the platforms that are most hurt by the recommendation algorithms. Maybe in the opposite, at least the population of contributors that we have today. But we could seek specific set of contributors.
Yeah, and also I think like for contributors or users, like say, what is the motivation they turn to our system, right? So what is the motivation to contribute to this system? What kind of issues or questions they want to address by using this system? I think like the contribution, the voluntary contribution is a important question to ask. Because you know, like for algorithms, you run algorithms, it requires consistent like contributions from the external like users, so that you could like run your own like algorithm to fight against the previous one. Kind of fight against, not directly, because you have another like a recommendation, right?
Yeah, indeed. I'm very interested in knowing the answer to these questions.
I was going to say the same. It's something we currently miss. Like we don't talk a lot to the top contributors on Tournesol, unfortunately. But it would be interesting to have their inputs.
So this study is more about a theoretical one. But if like we have some like very interesting insights when we do the interviews or do the study, like for example, specific interface design, like prototypes, or like when we proceed this study, it's also like interesting to look at. Like maybe we can do experiment or survey or or user study, to test some like new design ideas.
Good. If nobody else has a question, I have more. I guess a less interesting question is. So you mentioned about applying for like Tournesol applying to the conference. Don't remember exactly what was the name of the track. We had a good chance.
Oh, I see. The Kai conference, right?
Yeah. Can you tell us more? Like, can you tell us a bit more about this? Like, what are especially like how hard would it be for us to be accepted? Like, how much would be fit in?
So actually, I don't like participate that track as a like author or creator, like a system builder, but I participate that as a like a attendee, like so I attend that conference. Actually, I was a student volunteer, try to to deployment that venue for that conference. So I think that's very interesting. I think they will have a specific like instruction for how to apply for that track, and also probably need to submit a video or a position paper, a very short one. And I believe there need to be a video to display the delivery, like the creation, either like a systems or other like very like a fan stuff, right? So if like you need my help, I can like help with that because I'm familiar with that conference. So I believe like a video, maybe a very short like a discussion, introduction or position paper for that. And they have every year they have a deadline for that, but it is after the full papers deadline, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is a good like opportunity given like the next year's conference in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
actually, I was
yeah.
just going to suggest that we could have your help, and you could like.
Yeah,
guide
I
us,
can help
like,
with
write
that.
the paper or like collaborate with us on the paper so that we increase our chance to be accepted.
Sure. Yeah. I'm glad to help with that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So if needed, I can also ask my friends like how to how to do that, like who have that like a kind of experience, so that we can. I don't know. I don't mean like we will have other like collaborators, but I can ask the experience to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Cool.
No more question from the audience?
I think it's been pretty long already. So
it's a far beyond the expectation time.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's been like an hour 45. Yeah, so I guess we won't take more of your time, so unless there's a last minute question. But yeah, I would like to thank you again for accepting to give this talk. I think it was very interesting, and lots of things are extremely relevant to just designing safer information systems in general.
Yeah, and yes, I want to say, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's a very enjoyable experience to share my research with you, and also, have those a lot of like questions to discuss and talk about. Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool.
Yeah.
So just say that there's a mailing list for those interested in joining more of these events. So like we're going to announce all of these events. I don't have maybe I do have it somewhere here.
I think I'm already on the list, right?
Yeah.
The email list. So
that's the burden of being of being a guest. You get added to the mailing list.
Oh, I see.
You can unsubscribe, of course, if you. But yeah, I don't know if someone can copy paste the link in the chat right now. But I would encourage anyone to just subscribe to and to just attend regularly these kind of events. We hope to have one every 2 weeks or something like this. And we are also looking for speakers, although we do have a list of upcoming people. But yeah, also like feel free to invite whomever is interested in this kind of topics to join these discussions. I think the more people there is, the better it will be for all of us, and for to have new kinds of collaboration opportunities like the one we're currently building. So thank you again, everyone, and I hope you had a good time, and hope we'll see you again soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.